Dad, how's that chalkstone?
Yeah, this chalkstone is just sitting here, man.
Not like a 3/8" bolt, though.
I think maybe we were closer to mountaineers in the old days. Maybe we just did things in multiple pitches and things, and they weren't very hard, and we didn't have that good of shoes maybe, and we just kind of clumped up them and didn't work out moves and holes as much. So the stuff now is more gymnastic.
I think the difference now is that there are so many other routes out there that have opened my eyes to what's possible.
The main difference is that now they do a lot of working out the holes rather than doing it first time. And also there's more bolting so that they can have protection close to them and work out much harder moves.
I think Pratt's Crack is a cool line, and I've done it before. I think there's a lot of junk in it, and I wouldn't do it again, not if I could help it.
That's pretty extreme. I mean, that's something that we never dreamed about in my day. Hey, look at this.
Oh, no. This.
Oh.
Stick, Lynn. Come on, Lynn. Stick, girl.
When the first Moving Over Stone was filmed, I was at my limit on this 513.
Do it!
Now I've been able to do some 513s on my first try. My own progress in climbing reflects the many changes that have evolved in the sport. In fact, climbing has changed so much that people now refer to this style as sport climbing. The modern sport climbs have completely diverged from their origins in mountaineering. The most challenging climbs tend to fall dramatically overhanging faces. They're protected by closely spaced bolts, allowing the climber to push themselves to the maximum. Here I am climbing a route that I've never done before. This is an on-site lead, the best possible style. However, if someone gives me any information about the route, it's called beta, and if I climb the route on my first try with beta, it's called a flash ascent. But given the chance to practice the moves, most climbers would be capable of doing climbs harder than their on-site ability. A route done in this style is called a red point ascent. The moves are worked out and memorized until you can complete the climb without a fall. It may take days or even months to complete a red point ascent. You must be willing to push yourself and take some falls.
When you're climbing well, you will still think that you're hanging onto the rock when you hit the end of the rock. You'll be trying that hard.
Falling is a necessary part of learning to climb hard routes. If you eliminate the fear of falling, your mind is free to concentrate on the challenges before you. Sport climbing has led to newly discovered climbing areas and a new breed of climber. In this video, we will visit a few of these areas and learn from observing the style and techniques of various climbers. Each climber constantly refines technique to climb more efficiently. Efficiency begins with movements that blend effort with relaxation. Try not to grip too tight. Stay relaxed. Plan out the moves. Look at the next section of the climb while resting and visualize movements that could be made. Combine the effort into as few moves as possible. Grab the hold so it sets you up for the next move. Bolts are often placed near large holds so you don't waste energy clipping the bolt. Try not to clip from a position that is too low. Find the preferred stance, then clip the bolt. Stay relaxed and try not to think about falling. Clip the bolt quickly by pressing the rope against the gate of the carabiner. A good place to rest may not always be obvious. Here I use my feet to take weight off my arms. You'd be amazed at the rest you can find. These are just a few of the techniques specific to modern sport climbs. Using these techniques can help you climb more efficiently and climb harder routes. But apart from actual experience on the rock, watching others climb is one of the best ways to learn new techniques.
Okay, got it? Thank you.
So get out there, grab a partner, and have some fun, because practice is essential. A few years ago, a homemade climbing wall was the best way to practice climbing off the rocks. Today there are gyms totally devoted to teaching climbing technique, but they're not just for beginners. John Yablonsky, one of the original Yosemite stone masters, pumps plastic to perfect his own technique and sharpen his strength. Braden Mayfield already understood the basics of climbing at 4 years old. Now at 9, Braden has improved because his favorite place to climb is indoors. Indoor climbing is a highly specialized form of sport climbing. Here at the City Rock Gym is a controlled environment in which to hone your skills. Likewise, it's a great place for people to learn the basics of climbing, from slabs to overhangs. Indoor rock gyms make it easy for people to get good fast. It's an inspiring atmosphere for people to get together and share ideas about style and technique. It's not unusual to see Dad playing on the wall while Baby takes her first vertical steps. However, the techniques learned in the gym don't always translate to climbing on real rock. For that, people are urged to seek a qualified guide, like Peter Mayfield, Braden's dad. He owns City Rock Gym, and thanks to him, Braden may be one of the stone masters of the future. Artificial climbing walls are ideal for holding competitions, from the International World Cup level to informal gatherings among friends. Steve Schneider has officiated many unofficial events, including the Pretty and Pink Point competition, the Tuolumne Campground Classic, and now Steve has been invited to set the course for the High Sierra Invitational.
Man, I don't see no climbing wall here.
Oh, it's the course center. Hey, come on in, Steve.
Wow, this place is happening, Ermos.
Check it out.
As chief course setter, I'll be designing an intricate pattern of holds set to keep the climber at his wit's end, so to speak. Here we go. Holds are dishwasher safe. Oh yeah, we'll just go for the nice Hueco here and killer 3-finger pocket. Oh, we'll build a beauty of a route. Killer jug. Oh, and the starfish. Oh yeah, I love that guy. Okay, I always like to make the first moves pretty easy so that the climber doesn't fall off the ground and get really mad at you.
To get the most out of his small 16-foot wall, Steve has added a traverse. The holds are large in the beginning to warm the climber up.
Oh yeah, that feels pretty good. And I want to make a nice little cutesy move here. And I kind of have to underclean this a bit.
The next hold is placed lower than Steve's reach so that shorter people are not disadvantaged. Originally planned as an undercling, Steve has turned this hold into a side pull for a reach out left. The hold is tightened until snug. One of the most annoying problems is a spinning hold in a competition. Now Steve is set up for the crux, a reach for a bucket. This course served as a warm-up for a second course. Steve sets the second course over the warm-up route. The holds of each route are marked with colored dots.
Okay, we're about to bring our climbers out of sensory deprivation where they've been locked up for 3 days. That's so that when they come up, they have no prior knowledge of the route, and it is vu ascent. Okay, you guys still alive in there?
Yeah,
Ready
I
to
think
climb?
so.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
Can you see there? Same thing's out of bounds. Blue dots only. Okay, good luck, bozo. Looking good, looking good. Getting close. Getting the final move. Oh, almost. You've got 45 seconds to tie in and do the route. Okay, but first we'll check your knot. Okay, it's good. Entering the crux sequence. Right near the top. Come on, Lionel, you can do it. You can do it. Come on, baby, go, baby. Send it. Yes! All right, Lionel, way to go! He flashes and wins the Super Duper competition. Here at the High Sierra World Cup Invitational, the competition's been hot and fierce, rad and bad. But we have our first place competitor. Good job today, Lionel Clay of New Zealand. We have a little gift certificate from you, $25 from Black Diamond. Congratulations.
Right.
And a copy of the video, Moving Over Stone 2, which you'll be in, Bubba. And our second place contender, Ermos Ranos from Mammoth Lakes. Good job yourself today. You almost stuck that final bucket. We got a little prize for you. Someone sort of drank it, but that's what you get. There you have it, folks, from Mammoth Lakes, California. Yosha Poopy.
Mount Lemmon in southern Arizona is where American climbing team member Bobby Bensman learned how to climb. Here she is climbing a 512 on site. When we first filmed her at Smith Rocks, she was at her limit on 512. These days, Bobby is red pointing 513s. Using sport climbing techniques, Bobby has advanced through higher levels of difficulty. Let's take a look at some of her favorite climbs at various levels of difficulty.
Mount Lemmon was great because we seem to have a lot of different levels up there, lots of 5.4s up to 5.11s 10 years ago anyway, and it was a great place to just start learning how to lead and going through all the numbers. There were plenty of 5.6s, plenty of 5.7s, 5.8s, all the way up the range. So we just picked a number and we went through them. The flake route on Hitchcock, just a beautiful route, and it has those classic Windy Point edges and face climbing moves. And it's really neat because you kind of do a little laybacking, a little stemming, a little rocking over on high steps, and then you just reach the top. And it's a really nice view even from the top, even though the thing's about 40 feet, 50 feet high. But it's a really fun one for anybody that's beginner or advanced. I thought that Trouble in Paradise was just absolutely beautiful. I love to climb on arêtes, and this one in particular was just so pretty, going up this green and yellow lichen. And it was actually kind of a long route, and a newer route for people that climb 5.7, 5.8. It's bolted, and it's great to have bolt routes for people that climb at that level as well. And actually, if you feel comfortable, you can run it out to the next bolt. And if you don't feel comfortable, there's some really good nuts in between a couple bolts down low. And it takes you also to the top of one of the spires at Windy Point, and it's a really nice place to be. The Rupley route, R4, is just such a neat route. It's really diverse. You have the little 5/10 start on the bottom if you want, or you can do a traverse into it. And that route has a couple bolts, one at the beginning and one at the end, and it has a lot of natural protection in between the two. And the thing that I really liked about that route is it was so varied. You do face climbing on it, you have a really dicey traverse, you have a hand kraut right out of roof. Embarrassingly enough, that was the first time I've placed protection in an awful long time. And I think I was overprotecting it. I think the person that came up second had a heck of a time taking them out. I did Lizard Marmalade Direct on site, let's see, I don't know, 7 years ago or something? A long time ago. But it is the most beautiful route on Mount Lemmon out of anything, and it's excellent. It's something I always, whenever I think of one of my favorite, most wonderful experiences, it's that route. And it's perfect. It's an endurance route. It's unrelenting. It never stops. It just keeps going, and it's long. And I just remember being so psyched when I did it. It was hard, and the gear was hard, and I was just pumped out of my mind on it. To this day, whenever I see people on it, I always tell them that's the best route on Mount Lemmon, although there's bolted routes everywhere right near it, around it, on top of it, but it's bomber gear. You can sew the thing up and you wouldn't even have to fall more than 2 feet on it. The Hunchback Arête is beautiful. You don't realize how much you climb on the left side of it. When you first look at it, you think, oh, I'll be on the right side of it, but you're so much on both sides. It's real pretty, it's real delicate, and you get to do neat dancing moves on it, high steps and laybacks. It's real pretty. I love to climb now because of the new sport routes. They're set up in such a way that you can really push yourself.
Smith Rocks, Oregon, the birthplace of the American sport climbing revolution. When the first Moving Over Stone was filmed, Germany's Stefan Globach was working out the moves on the hardest climb in America. This route, done by a visiting Frenchman, represented a landmark in American climbing. Today, the widespread use of bolts and siege tactics have been accepted in putting up America's most difficult routes. Now, another Frenchman has come to Smith to attempt what may be the hardest route in America. One of the most spectacular formations at Smith Rocks is the monkey's face. For years, the most common way to the summit was with a Tyrolean traverse. These days, most sport climbers don't even go to the summit. The prize on the monkey is the center of the east face. This route has been tried by many of the best climbers in the world and remains unclimbed. Now, one of Europe's best climbers, Didier Rabetou, will attempt this route on the east face of the monkey face. Let's take a look at some of the techniques Didier uses to climb this route. To reach higher holds, you may have to do a high step. Try to balance directly over your foot to stand high and maximize your reach. Now Didier will perform a type of dynamic move. He catches the hold at the dead point, the precise moment when his body is neither going up or falling down. Notice how smoothly Didier sets up his body position for the clip. Also at Smith Rocks was Robin Erbesfield on the hardest route she's ever climbed. Her movements are precise and efficient.
Oftentimes I climb on a route that's harder than my ability, and it's not necessarily to red point the route, but to learn from the route, to find what I can do with movements that are beyond my immediate ability. I definitely believe that when you begin climbing, you should begin at a moderate level. Number one, to have fun, and to prevent injury. And to me, climbing is fun. And that's the number one thing, is to have fun. And I can climb routes that are very hard because I'm having fun. And my best on-sites and my best worked routes were simply because I had fun and I loved the route. And if it weren't for that, I couldn't do it.
Unfortunately, Didier sprained his ankle and was unable to climb the east face of the monkey. Who knows? Maybe an American will be the first to climb this route. Not all rock is ideal for sport climbing. Climbing a cliff like this can be a real adventure. For years, these cliffs were ascended in the boldest style, from the ground up, with minimal protection, on soft rock where a fall could be serious. Randy Grandstaff and Mike Tupper climbed many first ascents in the Red Rocks in this traditional style. But when the sport climbing trend spread across America, Mike Tupper began to realize the area's vast potential and bolted some of the most difficult routes in the Red Rocks. Randy places more emphasis on the style of ascent rather than difficulty. He will put up a first ascent in the traditional style, using the natural features for protection. Mike's first ascent will be a sport route. He will establish it from the top down, first figuring out the moves, then placing bolts on rappel.
On these short, 40 to 160 foot routes, especially when it's simple to walk to the back, I don't see any reason to go out there and get hurt. We've all pulled things off and chipped our teeth and cut our heads open and stuff, and there's no reason for that, not with the modern techniques we have. I'm going to put up a first ascent, set up a top rope on it, and first thing to do is figure out where I want the route to end, figure out where to put the chains. Put in the chains, then I'll rappel down it and kick it if it's steep enough or not so steep. So as long as I can touch the wall, I'll continue to kick it on the way down and knock off as much of the loose flakes as I can. And then I'll work the route. If it's hard, certainly if it's hard, I'll work it several times to figure out where the optimum clips can be. Okay, then I figure out where I put the bolts in, try to make the clips reasonable for anybody's height, tall, short.
With the bolts in place, Mike is ready to red point his first descent.
Yeah, Bubba. Life is good.
The Black Velvet Canyon has some of the longest roots in the Red Rocks. These roots take boldness and commitment. A perfect place for Randy to find a traditional first descent. Rather than place a bolt, Randy places small nuts in the soft sandstone. Randy likes this style. He's been climbing on this rock for years, and he's confident he won't fall.
It's pretty dramatic up here. They're just not, you know, they're not like superficial placements. You gotta work to get these things. This one's bomber, though. I might as well clip into it. God, it's just like holds galore. It's a typical Red Rock wonder. Yeah, that's bomber, though, actually. It's a better placement. That little flake broke out of there.
Higher, the wall steepens. Randy's protection becomes few and far between. Randy reaches the crux of the route and climbs it with marginal stoppers below his feet. Randy has succeeded in putting up a route that would be enjoyable for an experienced sandstone climber. To anyone else, this could be a scary climb.
Okay, here's the belay. I stand up and then I belay.
This route was established in traditional style, from the ground up, all natural protection, with bold runouts, like this section past the crux. Randy decided to make a safer climb for others to enjoy by adding 2 bolts. This gave him a chance to demonstrate traditional bolting technique.
First thing you want to do is kind of zen on the holds, right? Make sure you get your hole where you want it started right. It's kind of old-fashioned by today's new style, which is definitely a different style, employing electric motor drills. But it's still valid in certain circumstances. You only have to place a couple holes here or there, and it definitely enables you to travel a little bit lighter, thereby taking on larger features, projects. Yeah, this is the old-fashioned dinosaur method of placing bolts, in the sense that it takes about 3 or 4 times longer at least to place one of these than it does with a Bosch or Hilti. But the most gratifying part is that when you're all done, you go just like this. Slack Murray, and voila, protection once again.
If the rock is steep, it may be difficult to place a bolt on a natural stance.
Fuck, I'm back moving. Slack. Jesus. Please, Murray.
If it's too difficult to let go with both hands, you can hang on a hook to place the bolt. This could be a dicey proposition, especially in soft rock like sandstone. Next, a hole is drilled. Electric drills are preferred over hand drills because they can drill a hole in less than a minute. No one wants to hang around on a hook for very long. Placing bolts on lead can be very scary, but this is part of the appeal for the first ascensionist. Unlike the security of rappel bolting, traditional bolting technique holds the thrill of adventure and the unknown.
Slack. Ah, victory. Man over the elements. Murray, what a great job you're doing.
People have been using Hueco Tanks for the last 10,000 years. Unfortunately, some visitors to the park have not respected Hueco's cultural past. So far, climbers' impact to Hueco has been minimal, but with the popularity of sport climbing, this could change. One of the reasons climbers love to climb here are the many holds and holes known as Huecos.
These are handholds and footholds that are unique to Hueco, that they're as big as you could ever want, yet it's in a roof. So you get 25 feet of pure horizontal climbing, and in the end you'll find these are the biggest holds that you'll ever fall off of.
climbing came to Hueco, it was quickly realized that a route could go up anywhere with a power drill. In an effort to protect the resources of the area, the Texas State Park banned climbing altogether. But local climbers worked with the state to create a new bolting policy. Now, bolts can be placed by state park approval only.
Empire of the Senseless was my first new route at Hueco, and it was one of the first routes done there on the new approval system. It was a lot of work to get it approved, but it was really worth the hassle because it's a great route. Really nice moves, a nice steep wall, little edges, good climbing. In theory, the application process at Hueco is good. There's important resources that need to be protected at the park, and I agree with that. Unfortunately, the bureaucracy is really slow, so it was a fight, lots of phone calls to get it approved. In other areas, you only fight yourself to do new routes. Just your ability is all that matters. At Hueco, you have to fight the system and then fight yourself to get a new route done.
An approval process is necessary in a sensitive area like Hueco. In other areas, government officials may not be as understanding. Ideally, climbers should work together and communicate with park officials as opposed to having climbing banned for good. Some climbers just can't wait for route approval. Todd Skinner rigged Boys Town with a static line to protect the lead. Todd claims that this will be one of the hardest routes at Hueco Tanks at 514A. Todd has been working on this route for weeks. Before he begins, he visualizes each move, each lunge, and each hold in vivid detail.
On the beginning, there's a fair bit of 512 and some 513 that you must go by as quickly as you can, since speed saves power for the end of the route. So as quickly as I could climb without making errors, I made my way up to a clipping position which we named the gold pan because of its sloping nature. The clip from the gold pan is one of the most tenuous that I've ever been on, in that you're going to hit the ground if you make an error before you get the carabiner clipped. After clipping, the crux begins with a fair bit of dynamic lunging and some shoulder wrenching pops. You must be very, very careful with your feet. The feet are pulling as well as pushing on this route. So they're acting a little bit more like second and third hands for you, pulling on the end-cut holds and assisting in the big lunges. There were two holds higher up on the route that I named the spook eyes. And I had a big burrow set in the right one which took any value that it had as a hold away from it, but provided me with a way to keep the static line in. Okay, watch. And the last part of the route, which is a very, very technical section, needed so much power that it was a long time before my sequence was so polished that I had the right amount of power at the end. Son of a bitch!
Walking Spanish down the hall is a sort of PhD program in precision dynamics. What you're doing with your feet is sometimes precisely what you're doing with your hands. You're doing these dynamic movements back and forth, the tiny little crimps, to little edges. It's very powerful, very modern dance. And it's a remarkable climb because it's sort of broken into two parts. The first comes precision and accuracy. The second part leans back even farther. It's very, very difficult, very pumping, and you have to go a ways above the bolt on this. So as soon as the holds get big and your forearms are swollen to huge size, you have to reach long distances between holds, dealing with big slopers and long dynamic throws.
The way my arms feel now is exactly why I love this sport, so... Well, as they say in the Highlander, it is better to burn out than to fade.
It was frustrating because it wasn't just powerful and it wasn't just an intellectual climb. It was a beautiful combination of both.
The sea of holes, a 300-foot face covered in Huecos. A few years ago, there was not much difference between soloing this climb and leading it. The route had only a few bolts in 2 pitches.
One down, one to go.
Today, the route has many more bolts. The Texas State Park bolting policy has allowed for the retro-bolting of unsafe routes and replacing bad anchors. Now this climb can be led safely. However, Jay Layden decided to climb without a rope, despite loose holds and high winds.
This wind's making the sea a little bit choppy.
Free soloing may be the purest form of climbing. It's just you and the rock. But the stakes are high. Every year, many climbers die or are injured while free soloing. To climb without a rope is a personal choice. Like the circus performer who works without a net, the free soloer must accept the outcome of a mistake. But you don't have to free solo to experience climbing in its purest form. Some of the best climbing in Hueco is right off the ground.
Bouldering is the ideal sport for someone with a short attention span. When you boulder, you can do an awful lot of different type of climbing in one day. For me, bouldering, it's maybe the ultimate individual pursuit when it comes to climbing. Not that climbing with a rope and a partner isn't terrific, but with bouldering, you test yourself and you can try over and over again and gauge how you get better or your progress. I think that with bouldering, it's more the individual and the rock.
I think it's too high.
Essentially, you either get to the top or you don't. And so there's, in some ways, it's almost proving something. If you can't do the problem, you can't do it, and you go and try something easier that's more in your ability. But if you can get to the problem, no one can take that away from you.
Down. Look at it next time.
Right there. Yeah, you got it. Left hand. Come on. Work it?
Yes!
Work it, you got it.
Nice. Good job.
Go ahead, fire.
Hueco Tanks has, well, it's almost the ideal place to climb because there's so many different boulders that are remote that you can wander off on the trails, find a rock that you want to climb, know that the rock will be good, that the holds will be good, the experience will be terrific, Do your best, get to the top of the rock, have a good pump into your arms, and feel the satisfaction, and then sit there and enjoy the beauty of the place.
So far, we've seen some impressive climbing in this video. Most of it has been bolt-protected face climbs. Hard crack climbs offer a different kind of challenge and require additional skills. Not only do you have to be sure your jams are good, but your protection must also be secure. On this climb, part of the challenge has been removed. Protection can be difficult and strenuous to place in thin cracks, but the protection in this crack is excellent.
You okay?
Yeah. Right from the start, I figured, okay, the bolts are wrong. If I climbed it and clipped them, I wouldn't be happy with my performance at all. And so I just made the decision that I wouldn't clip them. Not sort of, okay, well, I'll see how it goes. If it gets real tough, then I'll start clipping them. It was just like, they weren't there as far as I was concerned. Myself, I really like the idea of having things that are impossible, that I cannot climb. I wouldn't like climbing so much if I could just climb anything. At least for some people who are getting into climbing and sort of told this is what climbing is all about, are maybe being shortchanged a bit, because I think there's a lot more to it than that. But for some people, they wouldn't get into climbing if they had to sort of take on the placing of protection and the lousy rock sometimes and the whole adventure part of it. They do just want a sport, just like tennis is a sport. I would hope that people getting into it come into it with their eyes open and with a mind to sort of being imaginative. I think it sort of goes along with the idea that there is a lot of diversity in climbing. I like to sort of sample it all. I think I would have to say that the big routes are my favorite thing. Sort of the closest thing to mountain climbing without having to wear big boots and carry big packs. But just, the long approaches, lots of climbing. At least some kind of isolation is preferable.
too fast, aren't I? This is top speed.
I think sport climbing is totally an approach, how you go about it. And I don't think there are sport climbs or sport climbers.
I've done some great sport climbing. There's some people out there that are doing fabulous things, sport climbing, but I don't think that every kid with a Bosch that comes out here and rappels down and pounds in a few bolts is necessarily a fine artist.
Yeah, it's a sporty route all over. Yeah, send it, baby, send it.
I don't like to use the term sport climbing so much because I feel like I'm a rock climber. You know, I've done a lot of climbing, and to say sport climbing to me sounds like it's eliminating aspects of climbing that I really enjoy.
I just want to sport climb, sport climb, sport climb more.
How the heck did you do this one, Skinner?
It's best to just do a lot of different types of climbing. Crack climbing, placing gear is a part of it. Sport climbing is a part of it. And the more different types of climbing you do, the better climber you are.